London, 1977. The 1970s, an era of disco balls and social change, held a dark secret in the heart of Enfield. This seemingly ordinary suburb became the epicenter of an extraordinary phenomenon, one that would chill the bones of a nation. At the center of this chilling tale was an unassuming house at 284 Green Street, an ordinary home on an ordinary street, about to become anything but ordinary. The Hodgson family, unsuspecting and unprepared, would soon find themselves caught in the grip of a force they couldn't comprehend. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, lived at 284 Green Street with her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. Strange noises in the night, objects moving inexplicably, a feeling of being watched. The children, especially 11-year-old Janet and her older sister Margaret, seemed to be at the epicenter of the disturbances. Their once peaceful home had become a battleground, a place where the veil between the living and the unknown wore terrifyingly thin. Word of the strange happenings at 284 Green Street spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. The police were called, their skepticism evident as they witnessed firsthand the bizarre occurrences. The haunting at 284 Green Street was no longer a private matter. It had become a spectacle, a mystery that would captivate and terrify a nation. The Hodgson children, their innocence shattered by the escalating events, became prisoners of their own home. Their bedrooms, once sanctuaries of sleep and childhood dreams, transformed into chambers of horror. Toys danced menacingly on their own, their laughter replaced by guttural peace, actual growls. Nightmares plagued their slumber, filled with shadowy figures and disembodied whispers. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, leaving them trapped in a perpetual state of terror. The children, their lives irrevocably altered, bore the brunt of the paranormal onslaught, their youthful resilience tested to the breaking point. As the paranormal activity intensified, it became horrifyingly clear that 11-year-old Janet was the epicenter, the focal point of the entity's malevolent attention. Objects moved around her with alarming frequency, furniture seemed to contort and sway as if alive, and disembodied voices whispered her name, taunting her. Janet's personality underwent a chilling transformation. She was trapped in a waking nightmare, her childhood stolen, her innocence shattered by an unseen force that held her captive in its terrifying grip. One of the most unsettling aspects of the Enfield Poltergeist case was the disembodied voices that echoed through the Hodgson home. The voices claimed to be multiple entities, each with its own distinct personality and agenda. The voices added an extra layer of terror to the already horrifying situation, a constant reminder that the Hodgson family was not alone. As the paranormal activity at 284 Green Street escalated, the Hodgson family found themselves under siege. Their lives turned upside down, their home transformed into a battleground. The media descended upon Enfield, eager to document the terrifying events unfolding within the walls of the unassuming house. The Hodgson family, thrust into the spotlight against their will, became the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation. They had become prisoners not only of the entity that tormented them, but also of the media frenzy that surrounded their every move. As the haunting at 284 Green Street reached fever pitch, it attracted the attention of seasoned paranormal researchers from the Society for Psychical Research. Maurice Grosse and Lyon Playfair, veterans of countless investigations, arrived at the house prepared to confront the unknown. Their arrival brought a renewed sense of hope to the beleaguered Hodgson family. The stage was set for a showdown between the rational and the irrational, the scientific and the supernatural. They were about to embark on a journey into the heart of darkness, a journey that would test their beliefs, their courage, and their very sanity. Grosse and Playfair, their senses on high alert, began their investigation by meticulously documenting the layout of the house. The atmosphere within the house was heavy, oppressive, as if an unseen weight pressed down on their chests. Grosse, ever the pragmatist, attempted to establish a rapport with the entity, engaging in conversations with the disembodied voices. Days turned into nights as the investigators immersed themselves in the case, their initial skepticism giving way to a grudging acceptance that something truly extraordinary was happening at 284 Green Street. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence witnessed by Grosse and Playfair was the levitation of Janet Hodgson. They watched in astonishment as the young girl, her small body seemingly weightless, rose from her bed and floated in mid-air. Grosse and Playfair, their initial shock giving way to a sense of urgency, rushed to Janet's side, their hands outstretched, their voices a mixture of concern and disbelief. The levitation lasted for what seemed like an eternity, a surreal ballet performed in the confines of a small, dimly lit bedroom. As the days turned into weeks, Grosse and Playfair amassed a wealth of evidence that painted a chilling picture of the paranormal activity at 284 Green Street. They recorded countless hours of audio, capturing the disembodied voices that taunted and threatened the Hodgson family. The evidence, though often circumstantial, was compelling in its sheer volume and consistency. The Enfield Poltergeist case, with its baffling evidence and terrifying implications, would go on to become one of the most well-documented and debated hauntings in history. The paranormal activity at 284 Green Street wasn't confined to the four walls of the Hodgson home. It spilled out into the street, weaving a tapestry of fear and uncertainty throughout the community. Witnesses from all walks of life found themselves drawn into the Enfield saga. There was an air of nervous excitement on Green Street. Neighbors peered out from behind curtains, their faces etched with fear and fascination. Word spread like wildfire, carried on the whispers of the wind. People gathered in hushed groups, exchanging stories. The strange events had become a shared experience, binding the community together. One of the most compelling testimonies came from a police constable, WPC Carolyn Heaps, a no-nonsense officer known for her level-headedness. Called to 284 Green Street to investigate reports of a disturbance, she found herself face to face with the inexplicable, her skepticism shattered by the events that unfolded before her very eyes. Heaps, her initial skepticism evident, entered the house with a sense of professional detachment. She had responded to countless calls, dealt with her fair share of domestic disputes and neighborhood squabbles, but nothing could have prepared her for the chaotic scene that awaited her inside the Hodgson home. Furniture moved as if animated by an unseen hand, objects flew across the room, and disembodied voices taunted her, their tones laced with malice. Heaps, her composure shaken, watched in astonishment as a heavy chest of drawers appeared to slide across the floor, seemingly of its own volition. In her official report, she described the experience as the most terrifying night of my life, her words carrying the weight of someone who had witnessed something truly unsettling, something that defied her understanding of the natural world. Her testimony, coming from a respected officer of the law, sent shockwaves through the community, lending credence to the Hodgson family's claims. Section 3. Corroborating Accounts. Neighbors in fear. The Hodgsons' neighbors, initially hesitant to speak out, began to share their own chilling accounts, their stories corroborating the family's claims. They spoke of strange noises emanating from the house at all hours, of objects moving inexplicably in the windows, of shadowy figures darting across the lawn. Mrs. Vicky Nottingham, who lived next door, described hearing blood-curdling screams coming from the Hodgson house, followed by periods of eerie silence. She spoke of seeing furniture moving on its own, of lights flickering erratically, as if the house itself were convulsing. Mr. and Mrs. Harper, who lived across the street, reported seeing strange lights emanating from the windows of 284 Green Street, accompanied by a low, humming sound that seemed to vibrate through the very ground beneath their feet. They spoke of a palpable sense of dread that descended upon the neighborhood after nightfall, as if an unseen presence had awakened from its slumber. These were not the ramblings of delusional minds, but the testimonies of ordinary people, their lives turned upside down by the extraordinary events unfolding in their midst. Their stories, woven together, painted a chilling portrait of a house besieged by unseen forces, a community held captive by fear. Section 4. The Ripple Effect, Doubts and Affirmations. As the Enfield case gained notoriety, attracting media attention from across the globe, the witnesses found themselves thrust into the spotlight, their accounts subjected to intense scrutiny and skepticism. Some dismissed their stories as fabrications, the products of overactive imaginations, or a desire for attention. Others, however, found their testimonies compelling, their consistency and sincerity difficult to dismiss. The sheer volume of witnesses from diverse backgrounds and with no apparent motive to lie gave weight to the claims of paranormal activity at 284 Green Street. The Enfield Poltergeist case became a Rorschach test, revealing as much about the beliefs of the observers as it did about the events themselves. Skeptics saw a family desperate for attention. Their claims easily explained away by psychological factors or outright deception. Believers, however, saw a family tormented by forces beyond their control. Their story, a cautionary tale of the unseen world that exists just beyond the veil of our perception. The Enfield case, with its cast of credible witnesses and its unsettling events, continues to spark debate and fuel our fascination with the unknown. Not everyone was convinced by the chilling tales from Enfield. Skeptics, armed with logic and a healthy dose of doubt, arrived at 284 Green Street, determined to expose the alleged haunting as a hoax, a fabrication designed to deceive the gullible and the sensation-seeking. They scrutinized every piece of evidence, every witness testimony, every photograph and recording, searching for signs of trickery, for the telltale signs of human intervention behind the seemingly paranormal phenomena. They pointed to inconsistencies in the accounts, to the lack of concrete proof, to the very human tendency to see patterns in randomness and to attribute agency to the unexplained. Some skeptics suggested that the Hodgson children, particularly Janet, were responsible for the disturbances, consciously or unconsciously creating the phenomena themselves. They argue that children, especially those seeking attention or escape from difficult circumstances, were capable of elaborate deceptions, their imaginations running wild, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Others posited that the events at Enfield were the result of environmental factors such as faulty wiring, drafts, or even seismic activity, misinterpreted by the witnesses as paranormal activity. They stressed the importance of ruling out all natural explanations before jumping to supernatural conclusions. The skeptics focus on the most compelling evidence, dissecting it with a critical eye. The levitation of Janet Hodgson became a point of contention. Skeptics argue the photos and accounts failed to prove genuine levitation. They suggested trickery, like hidden wires, could explain the phenomena. Disembodied voices were also rigorously analyzed. Skeptics noted the voices could be hoaxes recorded on low-quality equipment. Even moving objects were scrutinized, suggesting unseen hands or strings. Skeptics argue that suggestion shapes our perceptions and interpretations of events. In cases like Enfield, high expectations and charged emotions lead witnesses to see and hear what they expect. Media frenzy amplifies this effect, feeding into the collective imagination. Fear and excitement spread through communities, influencing perceptions and behaviors. Even well-intentioned witnesses can fall prey to groupthink. The Enfield case remains a battleground between belief and skepticism. Some mysteries may forever elude rational explanation. The Enfield Poltergeist case, a maelstrom of paranormal activity, skepticism, and media frenzy, left an indelible mark on the public consciousness. It became a cultural touchstone, inspiring countless books, documentaries, and fictionalized accounts. Was it a genuine haunting, a manifestation of unseen forces? Or was it an elaborate hoax orchestrated by mischievous children or attention-seeking adults? The debate rages on even today, with no definitive answers in sight. The Enfield case challenged our understanding of reality, exposing the limitations of logic and reason. It forced us to confront the possibility that there are forces at work in the universe beyond our comprehension. Whether we choose to believe in the paranormal or dismiss it, the Enfield Poltergeist case serves as a stark reminder of the unknown's allure